Hey YouTube, what's going on? Snowflakey Zemos here with another Master Duel deck profile. Today I'm bringing you a Trap Monster deck list. For those of you who don't know, Trap Monsters is a series of continuous trap cards that summon themselves out from your spell and trap card zone as monsters with various effects. And they've made a lot of these cards that synergize well together. And so my goal with playing this deck is kind of to make use of some of the best ones and just some supplementary engines to, beat my opponent down. So with that said, let's get into the card by card. First, let's talk about the monsters that we got. I'm playing two copies of the Calculator. Calculator is a monster that has 2 stars, and his effect is that he gains 300 attack times the combined levels of all face-up monsters I control. Which is pretty cool. It means he gets 600 attack normally, but the trap monsters add up to a lot of stars hitting the board at at once. Especially our big Statue of Anguish pattern, which is a 7-star monster. That guy alone being a 2100 attack gain. So Calculator can get pretty big. Gives us a big finisher to close out the duel. Just a fun card to use. And next I'm supplementing it with a little pseudo Dino Rabbit style engine. I'm playing 2 Soul Eating Aviraptor and 3 Jurak Guaiba. Soul Eating Aviraptor, of course, is a dinosaur monster that when normal special summon can take a dinosaur monster from the deck and either add it to my hand or send it to the graveyard. That's basically all he's doing in this deck, just to get another one in hand. Or, of course, I am playing Jurak Guaiba, which is one that if it destroys an opponent's monster by battle, I can special summon a Jurak monster with 1700 or less attack, but it cannot declare an attack this turn. So yeah, basically kind of the goal of these two is having some dinosaur monsters in combination with Swamp Mirror and Quantum Cat, which are 4-star trap monsters that can be any monster type and attribute. Allows me to play the Evolzars in this deck, which I already have a play set up from my Evolzar deck profile. So it's pretty useful. Being able to make Lagia to Solemn a card or Dolka to negate 2 monster effects is incredibly powerful. And since you don't have much else to spend your normal summon on, I figured just getting some extra dinosaur bodies ready to go for when I have those trap monsters ready is a good way to do it. I've also thought about playing around with something like Cactus Bouncer. But for now, these are the monsters that I am happy to be playing. Next up, we're getting into our spell cards. We are playing 2 copies of Card of Demise. Given that this is a trap card based deck, Card of Demise is pretty good because all the special summoning of our trap monsters is mostly going to take place on our opponent's turn. So we're perfectly fine drawing until we have 3 cards in our hand because we're going to have a lot of traps to set. Because at the end phase, we would normally have to discard our entire hand. But if it's mostly traps, we can set it. Maybe we'll lose a couple monsters, but not too big of a deal. Overall, just makes a good card to reload your traps, especially since trap monsters no longer occupy spell and trap card zones while they're on the field. Very important. So yeah, pretty solid card. Pot of Duality, again, same logic. We're not special summoning much on our own turn, so we're going to just dig for that consistency piece. Maybe we need our Summon Limit Floodgate or our Imperial Custom to keep our cards alive. Whatever card we're looking for, Pot of Duality can dig for it. Of course, we're only playing 2 because it got semi-limited. And last, I'm playing 3 Pot of Extravagance. While we do have an extra deck that we can go into, it's not necessary. A lot of the trap monsters have good effects on their own. And if we're playing a card like Summon Limit anyway, then the extra deck is kind of being hard to access by both parties. And so becomes less required. In exchange, we get to banish extra deck cards to draw 1 or 2 cards. If we banish 6, we draw 2. Now, of course, we can't use Card of Demise on the same turn, but that's all right. Anything to get us an extra card just goes a little further, and happy to do so. Especially since we got playsets of the Evolzors, the ones that we're mostly going through, so it's very unlikely that a Pot of Extravagance will banish all 6 of these, which is usually what we're going to go into. And that is it for the spell cards. Getting into our trap cards, I am playing 1 copy of Fake Trap. Fake Trap is a trap that I can only activate when my opponent uses a spell trap or effect monster to destroy trap cards on my side of the field. This card can be destroyed as a substitute, so that's pretty nice. It can be used to protect any trap monster, even if it's going to get destroyed while it's a monster. So if you Raigeki my trap monsters, since they're still considered traps, I can use Fake Trap to prevent them from being destroyed, which is pretty cool. And this one Fake Trap prevents all of them from being destroyed, so a good way to deal with Lightning Storm or heavy Harpy's Feather Duster, things like that. Next, I'm playing Cyber Shadow Gardna. Cyber Shadow Gardener is a good one-of trap monster because during our opponent's main phase, we can special summon this as an effect monster. Now, when an opponent's monster declares an attack that targets this card, the attack and defense of this card becomes the attack and defense of the attacking monster. And then once per turn during your opponent's end phase, set this card in the spell and trap card zone. So that's what makes this card nice, is that it resets itself, which combos very well with our Statue of Anguish pattern, just because we'll always guarantee to have one card to target and pop something. Speaking of which, we should talk about Statue of Anguish pattern now as one of the linchpins of the deck. It is a 7-star trap monster that will summon that has 2500 defense, and if summoned this way, it cannot be targeted by an opponent's card effect while I control another trap card that is a monster. Pretty cool. Definitely likely to have that on the field. And of course, the big effect, if a card is special summoned from your spell and trap zone to the monster zone while this card is a monster, target one card on the field and destroy it. So note that effect's not once per turn. And so, you know, every trap monster we summon can give us one pop, and that can be an incredibly powerful tool for disrupting an opponent's play. And, you know, just combos well with all the trap monsters. Definitely a card we want to see. And what's nice is if you have multiple Statue of Anguish patterns, each statue is going to get its own effect to pop. So you can just generate so much advantage by flipping a new trap monster, summoning it at the right moment to destroy cards. Taking a look at the other trap monsters we are playing, I'm playing 3 copies of Angel Statue Azurune. So this one is an 1800 attack fairy effect monster that when it gets summoned, and once per turn when your opponent special summons a monster while this card is in your monster zone, you can send to your graveyard a continuous trap in your monster zone that was special summoned from the spell and trap zone, aka any of the trap monsters, including itself, to destroy that monster. So pretty nice, kind of a Thunder King-like effect. You know, they destroy a special summon monster. And of course, it's pretty cool. It's not a hard once per turn. It's only a soft once per turn. So if you have multiple Azure runes out, you can do that effect multiple times. Also combos well with this because, you know, you can pop cards with by summoning Azure Rune. You can pop cards with Anguish Pattern. And then if they can summon even more monsters, you can even further disrupt them. So a pretty good card. Next, I'm playing 3 copies of Abyss Stingray. I really like this one. 5-star monster, 1900 attack. And of course, when this card's summoned, it cannot be destroyed by battle. So this is a good card to just sit on in defense mode for a long time. And, you know, gives you some options, but also just like a solid attacker. Just a card I like a decent bit still, so I'm playing it. Next, I'm playing 3 copies of Tiki Curse. Tiki Curse is pretty cool because he's a rock effect monster with 1800 attack when you summon him. And while this card is an effect monster, if another trap card that is a monster battles an opponent's monster, after damage calculation, destroy the monster. So even if your monsters aren't big enough to get over big attack monsters, you can still ram them, take a little damage, especially something like Abyss Stingray that cannot be destroyed by battle combos well with this, and then use Tiki Curse's effect to pop a card and to pop that monster, and that is pretty cool. And then the last trap monsters I have to talk about, I'm playing 3 copies of Swamp Mirror, which is just an 1800 attack normal monster, but I can pick the monster type and attribute, so being able to declare Dino allows me to make Evolzor Lagia, and there's all sorts of cool things you can do with that. And Quantum Cat is the same thing, except it has 2200 defense, so if there's definitely one I want to use as material first, it's Quantum Cat, just because Swamp Mirror's attack is a little more useful. But given that these are level 4s and I can declare their monster type, these allow me to play dinosaur type monsters and play Evolzor Lagia and Dolka, which are great XZs to have. Lots of other cool extra deck monsters that you may be able to utilize by the ability to just declare a monster type and attribute. You know, some of that more limited stuff is pretty sweet. And so that is the last 2 of the trap monsters. To conclude my trap lineup, I'm playing 3 copies of Imperial Custom. Face-up continuous trap cards cannot be destroyed by battle or card effect except Imperial Custom. So that's nice. This card keeps all of our trap monsters alive, you know, because they're all continuous traps, and they can't be destroyed by battle or card effect. So that means if they just try to run over your monster because they have a higher attack, well, they're not going to destroy it. And that's pretty nice. Lets you wall indefinitely. Also protects our other floodgate that I'm playing 3 of, Summon Limit. Summon Limit I find is a pretty good card because if you can get Anguish Pattern off early, and then you know, your opponent summons 2 cards, you play 2 other trap monsters, pop those 2 monsters, then afterwards you play Summon Limit to end the chain. you know, they can't summon any more cards. Their field's open, especially if you have a calculator and can poke directly, maybe finish the game. I've just found it to be quite a useful card. So 3 copies of Summon Limit. Definitely a game winner. Definitely one of the win cons available. And that is it for the trap cards. Getting into the extra deck, the main two I have to talk about here are the Volzors, as they're usually the ones I'm going into. A Volzor Lagia requires 2 level 4 dinosaur type monsters and just has an effect that's Solemn Judgment in exchange for 2 materials. So that's pretty cool. Negate a spell trap or a monster summon. You know, pretty good card to have. And of course, Evolzor Dolka, which is 2 level 4s, and I can detach 1 material when another monster's effect activated to negate the activation and destroy it. That's not once per turn, which is pretty nice. So, you know, you get 2 monster effects negates in 1 monster, and that can just solidify a board that's set up. These are usually the XZs I'm going to. Everything else that I have in here are just rank 4 XZs that I have, just because the most common level is 4 here. You know, Azure Rune, Swamp, Quantum Cat, and Tiki are all level 4, as well as our main deck monsters that we are playing, the dinosaur stuff, which is pretty cool. Do note that, you know, some of these things, like Catchy Kochi, the game just gives it to you. So there's better rank 4s to make in this. I've thought about playing the Evil Swarm guy that requires 2 level 4 darks and just flip monsters face down, because I feel like that could be very disruptive if I don't have the dinosaurs ready to go. But, you know, I got Giant Hand, you know, he can negate and affect monster's effect. Silent Honor Arc, he can detach 2 materials to steal a special summon monster. Dark Rebellion can half a monster's attack, gain attack. You know, Time Thief Redo are pretty good. Snatches top cards from the deck and has effects based on the type of cards attached to it that you detach. So just solid rank 4 good stuff. Um, but mainly I'm going into Evolzor Lagia or Evolzor Dolka. And that's it for the deck. So here's a replay to show the deck in action. We are going first against our opponent, who is playing a Galaxy slash Photon deck, which is a deck I've been seeing a lot more of when a season starts and I have to rank up again. You know, there's a lot more of that deck in the early phases. People seem to like it, and it is kind of cool. So with that said, let's get into the action. Now this is a pretty good hand here. We got Anguish Pattern, 2 cards to pop, Summon Limit, and Card of Demise. So if we don't get Card of Demise negated here and can get into our Fake Trap or Imperial Custom to keep these cards all protected, that is, you know, that's not bad at all. We'll take that. Um, so we're going to set our cards. We're going to play Card of Demise. Of course, they don't have anything. We draw Azure Rune, Extravagance, and Tiki Curse. I feel like Azure Rune here is the most solid. And we just got to make sure we don't get Harpy's Feather Duster, since we didn't get Imperial Custom or Fake Trap. And of course, our opponent goes. They play Rhoda. They don't hit Harpy's Feather Duster off the rip. They're going to play Pot of Desires. Makes me a little nervous that they're going to see that spell and trap removal. They just set 1 card. They must have not had the good hand. I'm going to play. I'm going to try to pop it at the end of the turn here. So they're just going to play Max C off my Azure Rune. Now luckily I can chain Anguish Pattern to Max C, so they're still only going to draw 1 card, and I still get the pop. Boom. Photon Advancer, that's not a big deal. Since I don't have enough damage to end the game, I'm just going to attack with Azure Rune and keep the rest of my cards face down, ready for them to pop my opponent's follow-up play. They're going to play Galaxy Zero. I'm going to start summoning some Galaxy. There's 1 summon. There's another card. Once we hit our 2nd summon, which will be, of course, a Photon Vanisher, I'm going to use Azure Rune and Abyss Stingray. Summon both of them out. Use Anguish Pattern's effect to pop those 2 cards. And then, of course, I will play Summon Limit afterwards. So they've summoned 2 cards and they can't do anything. All they can do now is set their card because they're not allowed to summon. And, of course, I am going to have 1 monster to pop that set card and should have enough damage to close out the game. So I'm going to draw Aviraptor, going to play my Swamp Mirror, select Dinosaur, of course. And but, you know, their field's open. I got all these monsters to attack with. And that's going to close out the game. And yeah, so that's a little bit how it works. You pop monsters, Summon Limit stops them from playing any further, you leave the board open, and you know, just take care of them like that. So that is it for my Trap Monster deck profile. Definitely a cool deck. I've always liked these Trap Monster cards, and I haven't played them historically because everybody else in my Duel group has had a build for them. But I decided, you know, on Master Duel, I'd like to try them out. Also, didn't cost me too much compared to what I had. You know, I just needed Imperial Customs and Azure Runes because all the rest of these are pretty low rarity, which is pretty sweet. And a lot of these other cards I have from other deck projects such as dinosaurs and whatnot. So really, I just had to make Calculator, which I think I already had some custom in Azure Rune. So a good deck to add to the repertoire. Very fun for playing on Master Duel. You know, good enough to get some wins. Maybe not carry it a diamond, but you know that can be worked on. And but it's a fun deck. I enjoy it very much. Love to know what you're doing with trap monsters. If you play trap monsters, maybe what supplemental engines you play with them, because I think that's one of the most fascinating parts of this deck is deciding what to use your normal summons are. I think something like Cactus Bouncer, where I could make Quantum Cat or Swamp Mirror also a plant, seems interesting. You know, just stuff like that. So thanks for checking out the video. I appreciate you, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.